Have you ever thought that storytelling is not just about the words that we use? Your words are very important, and clearly the best way to tell stories is to use words, either vocally or written, to explain those stories and communicate them to people. But there is another way that you can use storytelling without actually telling a story and get your point across and use it in a really powerful way. And that way is to use visuals. This might be the missing piece of your brand. You probably have a logo, you probably do tell stories, you'll have social media, you will have a font, you might have colours, but do you have illustrations or icons or symbols? Do you use infographics? Do you have specific imagery that is yours for your brand that helps you to communicate what you want to say? Because this can be a really fast, really powerful way to provide clarity to the people who are looking at you and seeing what your message is, so that they can get an understanding of that message. They can get an understanding of what it is that makes you, what makes your business your business. They can really get to the heart of what you're about quickly. And that's because 65% of people are visual learners, and visuals are processed 60,000 times faster than text, which means that if you're using visuals to communicate your point, you're going to be able to get that across really fast if people can see it, which is really exciting and opens up a whole opportunity for you to get your brand in front of people in a way that matters and makes sense and sticks in their mind as well, because people retain visuals in their mind for longer than they'll retain words or things that they hear or that they read. So visuals are really powerful, and they're a really great way for you to help create an eye-catching brand that is distinctive, that differentiates you from other people, that helps you to stand out and keeps giving you the opportunity to be recognizable. So when people are scrolling through your Instagram feed, or when people visit your website, or when people see your banner across a crowded room, they're going to be drawn to that because they see the visuals, they're intrigued, but also they may very possibly have seen them before, and they may feel drawn to them because it's comfortable, because they recognise them, because they feel that they understand those visuals, they feel that they relate to them in some way, they feel happy when they see them, whatever emotion it is that you want to create. And when you're creating visuals, you have the opportunity to create those emotions. So you've got your colours, you've got your font, you've got your logo, but you can create a whole style for icons, illustrations and symbols that can help create those feelings, create the vibe that you want to create with your brand, and help to demonstrate what your brand is all about. So your visuals can help demonstrate your values, they can help demonstrate your vision, they can help you communicate your message and get that across to people really quickly. So I'm going to share various different ways that we can do this. Some of these will be things you've heard of before, and some of them are going to be things that you might not have done. It depends if you know these people or not. But some of them you definitely will have. And there are so many different ways that you can create visuals in your business and use them in a really helpful way. So we'll start off with how you can use visuals. So you can create illustrations, you can create icons, you can create infographics, you can create symbols, all to show different aspects of your brand. And like I said, I'm going to share some examples of that in a moment. But ways you can use those: if you have an illustration or an icon that says something about your brand, then you can use that on your website, you can use that on your social media, you can use that anywhere where you're printing anything. You can just add it to places where you've alongside the text that you have, alongside your photograph, to help add that extra layer of information into what you are creating so that people can see it and they'll feel excited about it, and they'll feel that they're getting that extra bit of knowledge that they wouldn't have got from you otherwise. So for example, this isn't really what I'm talking about, but I am sitting here against a blank wall, but I've got a wall hanging and I've got a plant. I've got some colourful notebooks over here that you may not be able to see. I've got different things that I can stick in my background. So that is a visual thing. Not what this video is about, but it is a visual thing that is there that shows you extra things, that you're getting bits of information, rather than just getting a blank wall. You are getting like natural fibres, handmade sort of thing. I did actually make this. You are getting a plant to show, the outdoors is really important to me and to my brand, but I'm not outdoors right now. So it's really good to be able to have a plant in there. You're getting these are my brand colours. That's why I bought them. I was like, oh, they're my brand colours. I'll have those. Stick them in the basket. It's just adding different pieces into the background, into the image that people can see in that moment. So similarly, when you're creating social media graphics or you're putting a website together, you can add different elements into whatever you're creating to give people more information about your brand, about what matters to you, so that people can see it. So you would do that in, you might have like a pattern that you can use in the background, so maybe it's behind a photograph of you, or on a banner, or you might have a social media graphic where you've seen them where they have a pattern and then they have a colour block with text inside them, that kind of thing. I have an example here actually of my hairdressers. They have this, which is like a fern sort of thing, which I painted for them, and they have this on posters in the window. They have a dark green wall in the back of the shop. They have this is an appointment card, this is a loyalty card, and they're using those fern illustrations on everything. They're using the gold, they're using them in the other way around as well. So they've got the version here where it's white with green leaves instead of dark green. So they can use that over and over and over again as a repetitive way of using a pattern in the background on what they're doing. You could also use that, say, printed on tissue paper to wrap things, say if you're selling products, that kind of thing. There's so many things you can do with what you have. You could also use different icons in different ways. I scratched about before I came on this call. This is Yorkshire Rose candles. So I didn't design the brand for Yorkshire Rose candles. I did design this card. We use these roses that are from the logo to add an extra bit of information into the card so that you can see what the rose is for, and you can remember that and use it as an extra bit of visual aid in Yorkshire Rose candles. Brilliant candles, by the way, highly recommend them. So that's another way that you can use those icons, those illustrations. It might be that you can take them from your logo like we have with Yorkshire Rose candles. It might be that you need to create new ones to demonstrate different things about your brand. You can use them to accompany the text that you already have. So you've said something really important and you have an icon, you have an illustration of something that works alongside that to back that up, but also add extra information to help make that more interesting, or help people to read it in the right way because they're seeing the visual that accompanies it, that helps them to think the right way when they're reading your text. So there's different ways that you can use those images in that way as well. You can use them in presentations. So I have another client who is a sales consultant. She has a whole range of different icons. She has flowers, coins, bubbles, speech bubbles, laptops, mobile phones, squiggles, bubbles, like not speech bubbles, but bubbles, hearts, flowers. I may have been a bit repetitive now, I'm not quite sure, I can't remember, but she has a load of different illustrations in this red and gold colour scheme, and she uses them on her social media, but I know she also uses them in her presentations and in her handouts, in her workbooks, in her ebooks, on her website. They're all over the place to help add that extra bit of information about how she sells with heart, about how she's putting this stuff together in a beautiful way, and to get her personality through with these visuals. And that's another thing your visuals are really helpful for, is to get your personality across. You can be fun, you can be serious, you can be adventurous, you can show love, you can do so many different things when you start using illustrations and icons that help to get your brand through to other people. And you can also do that with charts and graphs, that kind of thing. They all count in what I'm talking about to help get your point across quicker, because if visuals are processed 60,000 times faster than text, and if 65% of people are visual learners, and if visual imagery is retained for longer than any other kind of information that people might see or read here, then it makes sense to make it easy for people to take that in the best way, which would be to use visuals. So if you've got charts and graphs, that's going to help people remember that, but it's also going to make them more likely to actually notice it and read what it's about than if you just put a statistic up, which is great, but we all know that storytelling works better than statistics. Even though I've thrown some statistics into this this video, it does work better than statistics because you can see it, you know, and feel it. And that's the great thing about story. And if you're doing that, the storytelling through your visuals, that's going to pack even more of a punch and be super powerful and super useful to the people who can see your stuff. You can use shapes, so it could be as simple as always using circles, always using triangles, always using hexagons. I did a wonderful brand identity for somebody recently, and everything is a hexagon. It might be a hexagon, it's an octagon, one of those things with multiple sides, and all of the shapes fit. You know, you can have multiple amounts of them that all fit together, you know, like the shapes do on a football, that kind of thing. And it all works really, really, really well with those shapes. But that shape is really easy for people to recognise it and see that what it is. So when people see that charity, they're going to start to recognise that, and that's going to be able to be used on its own if they want to. But it's the way that it fits together is really lovely, and you can do some great things with that. You can create patterns, you can use it on its own, you can use sections of it, you can stick things in the shapes. There's so many things you can do just using one shape to be recognisable. So that's really helpful. I said that I would share some examples of people that you have heard of, definitely heard of. So Dropbox and MailChimp, they use illustrations really well. MailChimp used to have this thing, you know, when you resend an email and you click the thing on your phone, and it used to have like these hands come up, and you used to be able to like pat the hand that had appeared on the screen, like high five it. I don't think they do that anymore, though to be fair, I don't do that with my emails anymore either. But they do fun things. There's lovely illustrations kicking around all over on there, and they are just great. Duolingo, my daughter's learning Japanese on Duolingo, and she uses that, and that has some really fun sort of like little owls on there as illustrations, and as world and as stars, and because obviously it's languages, so it's all the different languages, and all so you get the globe and you get the stars, and then you get this little owl to like make it more fun, and that's really interesting as well. We've all seen Starbucks, and we've all seen Nike, and we've all seen that these are brands that can be used with just visuals and you know who they are, which is really powerful. Yeah, it's taken them a while to get there, but it takes everybody a while to start to recognise things and remember things. You can get there too. If that's something that you want to achieve for your brand, then you can make that happen if you really want to. You just have to keep putting out your visuals so that people know who you are, and so they remember you, and then ultimately they will know who you are without having to read any words to tell them. But that can happen as well, not just through the shape, not just through your logo, but through the style of your brand, through the colours, through the font that you use. All those things can help you to be recognisable. But when we're talking about visuals, that's a really strong one where you can see that is something that's happened. Another brand that uses illustrations really well is Innocent. And I love them at the minute. If you go on their website, they've got this thing called the Big Rewild, and you can click a little button in the corner, and all of these flowers will appear around the edges, and beautiful illustrations to explain things and also show statistics. They've got something where like the trees build up and you can see like bubbles talking about CO2 and pie charts and things, and it's really, really beautiful. It's a really great example of how you can use illustration to really convey points in a fun way that makes you want to stay there. And I love clicking the little button in the corner and making the flowers arrive and then go away and arrive and go away. It's just one of those things that is really fun to do and really engaging. And it is really engaging when you're using illustrations and icons and charts and things like that to explain your point. It is much more engaging than just having a couple of words on the screen. That can work really powerfully too. I'm not saying that's not a good idea, but I'm just saying that if you add extra layers with your illustration, then it can be like super powered. So it's a really good idea. I also picked this up. So this is one of my clients. This is Claire. Claire's the Silverholic. She has this book, which I didn't create the book, but I did create the illustrations. There's quite a lot of illustrations inside here. Let me just get to a bit with illustrations. So we have these people inside the book. She's popped in there. I created those. She's got I just saw one that disappeared. There's another person. There's people all the way through the book because she's got a whole series of them. She's got this sober goals chart that goes on everything as well. And then here we've got brains. So see, that's a way where you can use your illustrations to talk about what's happening and what your content is. And you can use them in a book, you can use them on social media, you can put them on your website. There's so many different things that you can do with these illustrations once you've got them, so that they're incorporated into your brand and into whatever I just saw another one and I've lost it again, into whatever that you're doing, and it can be really powerful. And speaking of illustrations, I picked this book up that we've just been reading. If you see this book, you know this is a Quentin Blake illustrated book because of the style of the illustrations. It's something that you've remembered, you've recognised, you've hung on to since childhood, and you know that this is going to be a good book with really great illustrations, and you know it's Quentin Blake. You just know because it's been something that you've seen like all the time. So there's loads of different opportunities there where you can sort of think, right, well, if that's something that Quentin Blake can do, and it's about you getting those things, putting them together and using them in all the places where you put things, where you post things. Some more illustrations from me. I did it was icons actually for Kit McGrath. They're an educating tutor business, and they have things like clipboards and protractors and pens and folders and that kind of thing to do with learning. There's another one, Hot Desk, which is admin, so they have things like similar things actually, like paper clips and plants and office chairs and that kind of stuff, and it all adds to showing you what they do without actually telling you what they do, which can be really fun. A lot of people use characters. That can be really fun as well. I've had a lot of fun with owls, with monkeys, with little people. You can do so many fun things with illustrations if you just get a bit creative about it and think about it. If you have a podcast, you can use images of headphones or microphones or those lines that show sound. You can, if you have a business where you have different tools, I suppose it's about thinking about what is around you that you could use to show what you do. So there's Kirsten Woodworks. I did this ages ago. They make bespoke kitchens and tables, beautiful items, and I drew a suite of illustrations with like saws and planes and stuff like that to go in between the images in the portfolio to show that they were handmade and show the high quality of workmanship, rather than there could be an assumption that they might be made somewhere else and then put together. But they really wanted to emphasise, the handmade, bespoke version of what it is that they do. That is what they create, and it is actually made in a workshop. And it was all about showing that through the tools and through the illustrations that worked around those, just to fit in between the portfolio. Really simple. Don't have to overuse them, but it helps get that point across. So it's about like looking around, what have you got? So I might have like a photo of a computer, pens, pencils, pencil pots, inks, all that kind of stuff is going to help talk about what I do in a way, but it's about working out what you do. Maybe there's something really useful. I just did some illustrations for a wellness coach, and we did a set of shells and palm trees because her brand is really beachy, but also she's partially based in Dubai, so there's that whole sort of Dubai aspect of it, of being next to the palm trees and everything. And so that was really interesting. So she's got this set of shells and stuff like that she can use if you have, you will have a birthday at least once a year for your business, maybe for yourself, maybe for employees, maybe for clients, maybe for suppliers. There might be lots of different times you want to celebrate an anniversary, so you could have a set of birthday graphics, you could have a set of arrows or speech bubbles, you could have maybe you work with food in some way, talking about recipes or something, and you could have cutlery and salt and pepper pots, just to really help emphasize what you do and create some more visual interest in that, which also conveys your brand personality, and also conveys your brand values, which also conveys what your mission is and helps people to understand your brand really, really fast. You get, according to Microsoft, an average of 8 seconds of attention span we have these days. So you haven't got long. So if you can get people to see your picture of a chess piece or your picture of a pen or whatever it is, and they'll see that and be interested enough to spend longer than 8 seconds reading your caption, that would be great, wouldn't it? So this is about thinking creatively about how you can convey what your brand is all about to people through visuals. And you don't have to just stick to that one visual, which may or may not be your logo. You can have multiple visuals, but just make sure they're all in the same style, they're all in the same colour selection that you have, so that people recognise them as yours, and so that you can have a bit of variety as well, and get your message out there in different ways. Just something to think about. If you would like some help with that, I am here. That would be always so much fun to work on, something we've been talking about a lot this week with my clients, hence why I've made this video. Yeah, let me know if you decide that you're going to create some visuals, or if you are already using some really well, or if you know of somebody who is using some visuals really well, because I always like to be able to go and drool over somebody's website. It makes me feel very happy. And I'll see you in the next video.